The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here he is, Brandon.
Hi, welcome back to the Brandon Peters Show for the third installment in Tarkovsky's Tales. It's a retrospective in which we're talking about the films of Andrei Tarkovsky. Today features a discussion of Andrei Rublev from 1966. And along with me for this retrospective, every piece of it, returning to the show, author of Red, White, and Who, owner of Gallifrey Base, and director of programming for Chicago TARDIS, it is Stephen Warren Hill.
Hello.
3 names, 3 things you do right before. That's, I guess, what I do. How are you doing tonight, Stephen?
I'm doing all right.
Doing good, doing good.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'd like to thank my listeners. I've been off the air for a couple weeks, but I was just busy and then not wanting to cram in a forced recording just so people had something. So I appreciate that. But you're going to get the summer of 2015 at 10. That's going to run you all through the summer with no repeats. Plus, you'll get Tarkovsky's Tales going on in that, plus live shows from PopCon and Days of the Dead, which I want to make sure I plug because I'm officially returning June 13th through 15th in Indianapolis. It's at this like Courtyard Marriott. So it's like a complex that includes like every version of a Marriott hotel, all connected. And I will be there. I'll be doing the Brandon Peters Show live, poorly described movies, and Chris Johnson and I will also be checking out the film festival they put on and doing some instant reviews for that because I'll have a booth there as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun that weekend. I'm happy to be back. Thanks to them for asking me to return. And then, well, they asked me to return not too long after it. And then they confirmed it recently and made sure I was still good. And I am. So there you are, folks. I will be a busy bee. But today we are leading up to what Tarkovsky sees as his first kind of film, the training wheels off in many ways. Andrei Rublev from 1966.
Посмотреть пришел.
Все-то она, родная, терпит. Все вытерпит. Долго так еще будет. Послушай, что же это такое делается?
За грехи наши и зло человеческий облик принял. Бог-то простит, только ты себе не прощай.
Which he directs. He writes it with Andrei Konchalovsky, and it stars Anatoly Solonitsyn, Ivan Lapikov, Nikolay Grinko, Irma Tarkovskaya, Mikhail Kononov, and Nikolay Sergeyev. It's about the life, times, and afflictions of the 15th century Russian iconographer, Saint Andrei Rublev. Now, this one, it took a while to release. Like, it's 1966, but I think before any general audience could see it was like 71. Was that sound right, Stephen?
I think for a long time, I thought that the movie came out in 69.
Or
So
69? Okay.
that could be, I don't know where I got that from in the
I
first place.
I know there was like there was a screening some point earlier, like around, I think probably around 66 or something. That's why it's credited or something like that. But like, yeah, wide release. Yeah, you might be right, 69 or something like that. But then, back then it would have screened in a country and not like super wide.
Yeah.
So I might have been having the United States date of it or something. Or no,
Or I
did
could be wrong.
it's got a weird release like that happens along the way, and it's got a lot of cuts to the film, like a lot of edits. There's the original cut. There's a shorter cut than that. There's the released cut, which Tarkovsky claims is the one. There's like the U.S. even had a shorter cut, like was it like 90 minutes or something like that, and like people hated it because they were like, this is incomprehensible. It's like, well, you're seeing half the story. So,
I think
I yeah.
probably you could probably make a short cut of this movie
Hmm.
and make it decent.
Yeah.
As long as you're sensitive to what is on screen and what you're doing and what you're including and what you're cutting out, you could probably do it, but there's no need to do it
Right.
either, right?
I also for a 3 hour movie, it flies by. For me, it flies by. It's really quick. And it's like it's something with how it's structured, and then just I don't know, there's a great the pacing's just really good on this. And I just never felt like I'm sitting like drowning in a 3 hour movie or need to take break. It just and even the 3.5 hour cut to some degree works that way as
Mhm.
well. But with all the cuts and edits and stuff that happen, this is where Tarkovsky and Konchalovsky split from teaming up together because he did not like the cuts, and Tarkovsky was like, you know what, they have a point with this, uh, with some of the things that they do, and if you, I think honestly, like if you were to see um, the Tarkovsky's preferred cut, which is the 3 hour 5 minute cut, I don't think you'd know anything was really missing. It's a lot of like I believe it's mostly like extended violence and fantasy sequences that were
Mhm.
cut from the film.
And a lot of trim, just you know, make the shot 5 seconds shorter. A lot of trims like that.
Yeah, it was mistaken that that was the director's cut for a long time, but Tarkovsky's estate came out and was like, no, he liked the other cut better. Which your first time was seeing the extended cut. My first time was the 3 hour 5 minute cut back when I first saw it. So two different two different avenues here with that. Yeah, this film it's, as I mentioned, the pace and how it's structured. It's a film in two parts, but 8 chapters,
Yeah.
bookended with a prologue and an epilogue. When did you first see this one, Stephen?
I first saw it in where's my note? 1994.
Okay.
I bought Criterion put it out on Laserdisc, and it was the list price was $125, and I bought the movie for $125 without knowing anything about it other than it was directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, who I had, just discovered through seeing Stalker, and I think
Hmm.
I've talked about that in one of the earlier shows. And I I remember watching it shortly after buying it, which I don't always do. I buy a lot of movies and sometimes don't get around to watching them for quite some time.
Yeah.
But I was keen on seeing this one. So that was my first time, and instantly, I said, "Okay, this is okay. Maybe it's not my favorite movie, but it's definitely a top 10 movie." Um, right away, my just first reaction as soon as it was over, top 10 movie for sure. Um, and I've seen it now with watching it a couple of times leading up to this talk. I've seen it, I think, 7 times with different
Gotcha.
cuts.
Hmm. So
So,
what struck you with it, since this one hit so high for you, and top 10 film of all time? That's high praise. What struck you about it?
this is like a stealth movie. For me. And
Hmm.
I, I learned, I mentioned to you before we started recording that I shared this movie with some of my friends recently, and they didn't like it too much. Um, so everything I say, I have to realize that your mileage may vary, and you may not have quite the same feelings about any given movie that you or I do. But for me, this movie, when I say stealth, it's like a stealth movie. It Up until the end of the movie, I didn't really know what I thought of it. But the last segment, the bell, is so clever. It's such a brilliant way to tie together the movie with threads that you didn't even know were there, that were laying there. Um, and just the payoff that you get from that last scene in the movie, the last narrative scene, because the movie is another 12 minutes of paintings. Um, but that's really the last scene of the movie is just, it just knocked me out. I was flabbergasted by how effective it was. And it was like it snuck up on me, and like,
Hmm.
wow. And I've seen other people have the same reaction to it. Um, which is one of the reasons why I was hoping some of my friends would have a similar reaction. They
Right.
just didn't.
Well, you know what? They may not have, but I bet that's going to be chewing in their head for at least a couple weeks,
You
months.
could be right.
Because even, like, this is a movie that, like, it's so profound. There's so much going on. There's so much deep, like, there's so much layering, so much thought-provoking stuff from all different aspects and angles of stuff. And this is where, like I said, he begins a run of just making masterpieces back to back
Mhm.
to back. And I just, there's just stuff here like this. Tarkovsky doesn't want it considered a religious film, but it is one of the best religious films if you're gonna, stuff about religion and stuff, because that's the backdrop of a lot of this,
Yeah.
because of the time it's setting, and the, you know, where Andrei Rublev is in his life, and what he works with. Um, and I guess we're around the Easter Passover season, so this is a perfect movie for us to talk around this time, I suppose. One of them, like I always talk about my Easter weekend trio of that I always like, my triple feature of um, Life of Brian, Last Temptation of Christ, and Martin Scorsese's Silence. Like, that's my Easter trio. But Rublev can make it a quadrilogy, I guess, with that. But yeah, there's so much. Like, I think, should we go like each chapter and go by that to sort of discuss this, because
Yeah.
I think each one needs its own attention. Like, that's what
Yeah.
I was thinking. I was like, just a grand overview is just gonna be like all over the place. This
True.
one actually provides us a guide, of
Yeah.
things. But we can start with the prologue, which I think is just sort of like breathtaking filmmaking. Like, this isn't an action movie, but this is, it has some incredible action scenes in it, including this opening, which is like its own. You don't realize it, but it's kind of a chase sequence.
Mhm.
This guy trying to get this hot air, this. It's supposed to show like one of the first people in flight, and it's this guy who sacrifices his life to know what it's like to fly, and that's sort of, you don't know what it is or why it's there
Yeah.
at the beginning, but you kind of know it's about, you know, the masters of art and everything else, like, or inventors, stuff like that, will like go as far as their body, their mind, they can take them to experience or for their art and stuff like that. But I really like the camera work here. Starting like it's got some really cool angles, a little bit of a oneer going for it for a bit, and just the experience. Like I've never seen this movie on a big screen, but I imagine this plays extremely
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, it's there's some for a lot of it is first person point of view
Hmm.
photography. Um and I for me the most interesting thing about this segment is that it takes you a long time to really figure out what is happening.
Hmm.
You know, the balloon is pretty obvious. And get, getting up in the air is pretty obvious, but you kind of you have to start wondering, why are all these people running towards what's happening? Why are they on the ground apparently angry at whatever's going on? And it doesn't really ever get explained because there's no direct connection
Hmm.
between this segment and the rest of the narrative. Nothing direct, you know. There's a
It's all
uh,
thematic, yeah.
it's implied. I think that it's the same. It's the Andronikov monastery that he's launching from, but I'm not sure that that wasn't a retroactive application of knowledge there, or
Did
what.
they Monty Python and the Holy Grail that where they like shot one castle from different angles to be two different places, but maybe people are like, "Hey,
Mm.
is that
Mm.
the same place?"
It could be. I don't know.
That's I was just thinking, I was like, thinking I don't know that for sure, but yeah, I was like, well, maybe they were using one outdoor setting for two different spots, and then people are like, "Hey, that's the same," but I don't know.
And I did try to do a lot of cramming for this. You know, I have a bunch of books either on Tarkovsky or by Tarkovsky,
Hmm.
including one. And I read the screenplay, the book of the screenplay, which is written as in narrative style. It's not
Hmm.
a
Oh, yeah.
dialogue style.
Interesting. Okay.
Which has, you know, it's an early draft, so it has a lot of things that don't end up in the movie at all in any of the cuts, which I thought was interesting. But it was good background, but I probably won't get into much of the details of that because we're
Gotcha.
here to talk about the movie.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Um, yeah, I like this sequence. It just, I mean, as a separate entity, it works as a nice little, almost like a short film on its own.
Mm-hmm.
That I think's really, really neat. You can, I like it. It's just so simple, but you can grab a whole lot from it and a whole lot of Tarkovsky from it too, which I like.
Mm.
That leads to our chapter one, or just I one, yeah, the Roman numeral one, where we have our three uh monks, which one of them's Andrei Rublev, the other is Dan Leo, and the other is Kirill, and they are wandering, and a rainstorm happens, and they shack up in this. It's that's like a barnish thing,
Like a tavern, yeah.
yeah, tavern, and there is a jester going off about the hierarchy and all this stuff. Overnight, um, they stay overnight, and then the next day, the authorities come in and pull the jester out, and then uh, one of them returns into the barn, and it's kind of assumed like that guy rat him out. Was that what happened here? And then they all leave. But yeah, this is some interesting stuff with like the little people and their commentary on those high above them, and while in the face of people working for that. um but yeah, interesting start with our group of three, and like one of the last times we'll see them all together in the movie as
Yeah,
well.
it's true. It's the first time we get to see these three main characters. And we don't learn too much about them. They have little bit of a conversation before they get to the tavern.
Hmm.
We learn that they're leaving their monastery to find some work elsewhere. They're going to go find find work, and they're not too concerned that there won't be some painters left behind to pick up their absence. But then they get to um, the tavern when it starts to rain. They decide to take cover. Um, the the jester, the guy who plays the jester, is very good at it. He's got some talent for sure. And you don't like when you're getting into this movie, when you're seeing it for the first time, and you're not really getting the typical introduction to characters that you would get in a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
You have to sort of collect the bits of information that you get in your head as you go along. And with a 3 hour plus movie, you don't necessarily expect every character to have uh, what am I trying to say? Well, you're gonna expect a lot of these characters to be seen once and then they're done.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd be deceived thinking that in this movie's case, because a lot of these characters, these peripheral background characters, we see throughout the whole movie, if not disappearing for a while and then coming back later.
Correct. Yeah.
Because as you know, we see the jester again much, much, much later.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the characters are like that. So it's a deceptively large movie with surprisingly few characters that you need to really be concerned about. It's like the cast, the ensemble cast of a 90-minute movie spread out over a 3 hour plus movie.
Yeah.
And I will say that in the book of the screenplay, there is a scene where Kirill leaves. We see him leave the tavern.
Mm-hmm.
And go to some of the soldiers or the guard.
Oh, okay.
Outside and talk to them. This doesn't happen in the movie. All we know is that from the camera movements and showing the people in the tavern, we know that Kirill is missing for some of the shots, and then he suddenly comes back in at the end of the scene, and I think Andrei says, "Where were you? Where have you been?" We don't find out until later. We're suspicious, but we don't find out until much later.
Yeah.
Kirill is the one who, narked on the jester.
Yeah, there's a weird sort of like assumption you can make when you watch it, but you don't get an actual confirmation till later on. And in this opening chapter, like our three guys are observers. And that's what
they hardly say anything.
Yeah. They get in and they don't really interact with the people, and there's kind of one thing I like that Tarkovsky brings to the scene is like the jester keeps going, but when they arrive and are in there, the mood gets a little less comfortable, and that's pretty. It's pretty cool the way they pull that off. And maybe it's because they can cut to those guys there, but you kind of get the sense from everybody else in there that like they're less enthusiastic about the jester stuff. And he's going he's going at 100 the whole he's like, nope.
Yeah.
And he's not like a clown too. He's more stand-up comic than he is like a buffoon with his jester stuff, from what I gathered. And he's also very acrobatic, because there's a scene where he goes out the door and then like it's one shot. He goes out the door and then pops from like the hanging down from the
roof. Yeah.
The roof. I'm like, wow, that's quick stuff there.
Yeah. If you watch carefully, you can see that there's a little cut there.
There's a little cut there. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what I was like. I was like, did they use two people, or is there like a cut I didn't see? So fair enough. That probably more relevant, because the 3.5 hour cut, it's like a rougher print of the film on the Criterion disc. I noticed it's like, a bit more grainy, dirty. They're like, fine, here, you guys can have this one.
Hard subtitles.
Hard, it had hard subtitles on there too. So it came from somewhere else. Just like a lot of the. Sometimes when they have like special cuts of films, like some of the inserts are only SD That feels like
Mhm.
possibly from there. So yeah, that's what they do in the first one. The second one um, is Theophanes the Greek, and this is where like this is one of my favorite characters in this Theophanes.
Mhm.
He's quite interesting, and um, he's a working painter, and Kirill is there, and he wants to become like an apprentice to him, and like convinces him to do it. But then they end up selecting Andrei Rublev for it, and Kirill's like, "Screw this, I'm out of here."
Yeah.
And he like kills a dog, like his dog on the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And then there's a you know, Theophanes and Andrei Rublev uh take off. Well, Danielle is like, "Hey, you want to come too?" He's like, "No, I'm good." So, um, yeah. So that's kind of
It
a whole. This is where
it makes
the
for
band breaks up.
yeah, yeah. It's an interesting dynamic that I mean, we're still just learning about these characters. We're in the early
Mhm.
stages of learning about them all, and we've all of a sudden we get this. They're separating, and it's a little disconcerting
Mhm.
um,
And
because
we learned about the reputation more of Andre too through the
mhm,
Kirill. We learned that he's like known, and there's like a lot going for him.
yeah, it's a great moment when Kirill is talking to Theophanes, and he says, "Okay, I'll do it, but only if you come personally
Yeah,
and ask me to do it right in front of Andre and the whole town." And he's waiting and waiting. And when the messenger shows up, Theophanes doesn't show up himself.
hmm
The Grand Duke sends a messenger. Um, and you can see the look on Carol's face. Is like, are you here for me? He's
Yep.
kind of like chomping at the bit. And the messenger is like, which one of you is Andrei Rublev? And Carol's face is right there in them,
Yeah.
and is he wants the Grand Duke wants you to come to Moscow to paint whatever it is, the cathedral, um, and you can take whoever you want along with you. So I mean, it happens very quickly. Carol, you can see he's like he doesn't know how to react, but you could also see that he's pissed off,
hmm
which manifests in his anger and turning his back on the monastery and the father figure of the monastery who basically banished. It's like, yeah, get out of here, dude. We don't want to hear you. And then Daniel, uh, Andre just assumes Daniel is gonna come with him. He's like, they didn't ask me. You go. And then I think I don't remember if it's the next scene. Uh, let me see. Andre. No, it's still in this part.
hmm
So after that, Andre goes and talks to Daniel, and basically confesses that he really thinks that they're a pair and they need to work together, and that I think he even says, I see things through your eyes or something like that. So he sees Daniel as essential to his own work.
Yeah.
Which in a way it really kind of I think starts Andre's crisis in not being able to paint for a
Yeah.
very
His
long time.
crutch is gone. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's an awful lot happening here, even though it's at this point we're probably 45 minutes into the movie and we're still getting these set up things,
Right. Well, I mean, in the background of this whole movie is the Duke. And like in the last part, we're getting a lot of like, ha ha ha, make fun, a jester bitching about him. Then we get our first example of like, oh, this guy does what he wants because he's supposedly told Kirill, and he's like, nope, Andre.
Hmm.
And then this guy just there's ramping up of what he does, and then people being against him. That's like just this whole backdrop of what's happening in the film.
It can get a little confusing. I had to write out these summaries for myself to
hmm
figure out, because once we see the Duke's brother, who's a twin, and he's the prince.
Mhm.
You know, and now you've got two people who are authority figures more or less, but one of them pairs up with the Tartars and sacks their
Mhm.
the town, and it's hard because you only get some glimpses of the Duke, but very quickly you realize they do look the same.
Yeah.
And there's scenes with them both, flashback scenes with them both later.
Mhm.
But it in a moment in the movie when you're still trying to learn who everybody is, and we don't see the Duke. We haven't seen the Duke or the Prince yet, I don't think, at
No.
this point.
Nope, we have not.
So when we finally do see the Prince, it's easy to think that that's the Duke. So it takes some time to figure it out, get it all straight in the head, which obviously makes it difficult for a first time viewer to keep that, to actually, successfully process all that stuff
Yeah.
and retain it.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. No, this is it's I mean, yeah, and it's as a film that you don't probably watch a whole lot regular, it's not only is it heavy in a way that like it's a heavy film that's it's not just the 3 hours, it's a heavy film to take. It's a movie you want to process and not just like watch over and over again. So it can be like, is this, oh yeah, that's that, when you return to it as well. um so yeah, next we get the Passion, the third chapter, which is the journey of Andre with apprentice Foma, and then Theophanes with them again. And this one, there's a whole conversation about religious fanaticism, the cyclical nature of human being. Like I'm loving this stuff where they're back and forth of like, and you know what? How I can't believe you showed your friends this movie and this scene didn't resonate, because like this scene's still relevant today. His argument with him about how people, and he even says if Jesus Christ were here today, they'd put him on the cross again for what. And like we're living in a time where we have a lot of religious fanatics that's like if Jesus showed up now, they would hate him. Like that's
Yeah.
everything, and it's like it's sad that we're still talking like this in 2025
Yes.
of a movie from 1966 that's harkening back hundreds of years, and we're still having these conversations. And it ends up they end up having a really interesting like uh sequence showcasing Jesus carrying the cross, and like he's carrying it through like snowfall too, right? Which
Yeah.
is a real interesting touch.
It's more like a passion play, and I gather it's supposed to be because it's intercut in their
Mm-hmm.
conversation. It's supposed to be Andre's own sort of imagination seeing the crucifixion played back in his head,
Mm-hmm.
more as the passion play than the actual crucifixion. So it's happening in Russia in the snow, and and in familiar looking figures, but it's not the actual crucifixion. So, and I don't know how much that got trimmed in the shorter cut, but I know it's there. But
Mm-hmm.
again, I watched the longer cut this time again. So, um, this is one of the very heavily philosophical sections
Yes.
of the movie. And uh, so one of the things to understand about the movie as a whole, of course, is that that one of the topics is, um, if you're a religious person, you believe that, and you are a creative person, you believe that God has given you the talent that you have to create. If you are very good at something, Andre is an excellent painter. Theophanes is an excellent painter. If you're an excellent musician, and you're religious, you feel that God has given you that talent, and that your job is to exercise that talent, share it with others to reflect in the glory of God. And this is the argument that they're having, Theophanes and Andrei, that Theophanes doesn't quite, he may have seen it that way in his past, but he doesn't quite see it that way anymore. He even says he finds it boring. I let my assistants do the work now. I find it boring, he says. Andrei is having a similar problem, but his is more of a, it's or he's in the early stages of a crisis of faith, which gets worse.
Yeah.
So they're having this discussion about using your art to glorify God, or using your art to, because you're a good painter and you want to be famous, or things like that. I mean, that comes up too as a topic. So this is sort of laying the groundwork for what is to come still. And also every scene is going to be, there's going to be a lot to untangle. This is no exception. And we also learn a little bit in this segment about Foma, the assistant to Andrei, and how he feels. I think it's still too early for him. Yeah, he a little bit later he'll say, "All right, I'm out of here."
Right.
But he's still loyal right now, but he's not doing any work because Andrei's not doing any work.
I believe this is the moment where we see him cleaning out paintbrushes in the water, and we get the white
Yeah.
floating water, which will be a recurring thing throughout the film.
Yeah, at least 3
And
times. Yeah.
yeah, which tragically shows up again for him in a certain moment. But I was noticing this, and this will come up heavier later in the film. But it almost feels, and this is so unintentional, but maybe in stylistic or visionary choices, I feel like we're being teased into Solaris here by the way he films the water, because we can see the algae, whatever, floating under the water, which is really, this is the next episode, but when I first saw Solaris, I was really taken with how he filmed the water. Because normally you see water as this clear, in film is like this clear, beautiful thing. You don't really see what's under that surface. It gets a solid color or something like that, or it's a deeper thing. And with this and Solaris, it's just, I don't know, the way he's looking at the water feels very similar. So I'm like, oh, is he leaning us into there with that? Which there's stuff in Solaris that'll lead, filmmaker wise, that'll lead you into Mirror. That Mirror lead into start, like just these little touches that he's unintentionally teasing. It's more his craft than it is, oh, I know my next story already. But kind of, yeah, the water, the way he shoots here, it's black and white. The film's all in black and white until the very epilogue ending of it. But I was like noticing it here. I was like, oh yeah, the water looks like the Solaris water, the swampy, marshy type thing.
And Stalker has that in a way. I can't help wondering if that isn't a little bit of, nobody ever takes the time to like just look and see what's right under the surface of the water in a stream, and I'm going to make you do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 minutes or something like that. And it is, you're kind of enthralled. I mean, you got to admit, even if you're bored by one of Tarkovsky's movies, you can't help but be enthralled at the things that you're seeing.
Yeah,
under the surface of the water.
Yeah,
because you never do that.
Yeah, he gives such a, it's like such an introspective look in what you see, and like all sorts of things. Like his movies, I could compliment to him. I can watch him on silent and be just as entertained and read so much from him, just because he knows he's not a cinematographer, but he's got like the perfect eye for it, knows what he wants, and he's like, and that's why like comparing him to like Kubrick is very simple, like just like, you guys don't make boring frames, do you? Like you make and I've always talked about this, like, and sometimes everybody goes, "Ugh, it's pretentious." I'm like, pretentious because you care about every shot, because you care, because things need to have meaning. Um, like one of my guests on the show from Yancey Birds, we always talked about, like, man, remember when like just like like plain conversation in a movie got taken seriously by how they shot it and everything. It was interesting, and now they just have a stereotypical way to hurry up, get it, and
Mhm.
move along. But like, you used to be able to film a conversation super interesting, which this one has super interesting ways of filming conversations. This segment being one of them. It's all over the place in a good way. I mean, we start leaning on seeing him talk, and then we see Jesus carrying a cross, and people following him back to the conversation, talking around. It's fantastic stuff. But yeah, this segment, I enjoyed the philosophical battle that we were having here between the two. Not really a battle, but just sharing of the minds with everything. And like,
Mhm.
yeah, and that, like you're saying, like, people feeling like God gave them the gift stuff, which I always, pet peeve of mine is when, like, people have a successful surgery and they thank God for it. It's like, what about the surgeons?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, all like the athlete that thanks God for their success and win. I'm like, what about all your hard work and training that did, and the coaches that helped you? Like, like there's
Yeah.
there's having faith, but there's like personal stuff. You did that, man. You worked hard. Get or that person was a help. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Segment.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah.
It
So.
does make me wonder a little bit, like if I were a religious person, how would I
Mhm.
view this movie? Would I experience it the same way? Because I am absolutely not religious at all.
Yeah,
And
maybe that's why these are like, I enjoy this one because I'm not offended. But I would think a person, well, there's the people that there's no questioning, but I don't think this one's like necessarily against face, but it's like a stop
Mhm,
for a
mhm.
second and let's take a look at it. And Theophanes, we have to mention, is super old too. Like,
Yeah.
he is mentions that he is on his deathbed. Like, he's checking. He doesn't even make it to the next chapter.
Right.
Um, so just kind of a interesting thought here, and a man at the end. It's been like, he was probably once thinking of that, and then he grew old, and nothing was changed. It's like, oh, okay, grew out of it. Um, yeah, which takes us to 4, which is the holiday, which they do have years attached to these. So we've gone from 1400 to now 1408, um, where this is a very interesting, because this is when they're camping, and Andre catches upon a pagan ritual night, and he ends up getting caught, and he is molested by a woman during it, as he questions what she believes in that. And then, of course, the authorities come and round them up. And the next day,
Mhm.
when Andre comes back, and they take off by boat, and that ends it. But this includes one of my favorite shots from a Tarkovsky movie, is when the woman is escaping. She goes to swim across, and we get this boat tracking shot. This pans over the boat, and it goes right next to the boat. She swims right on by it, and then we start crane lifting. It's
Mhm,
master. It's
mhm.
oh, I'm film pretension right here, but I was like, that's brilliant. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's insane how many takes before they got that. How like, where did she start her swim from to get that right? Like, there's so much going on,
Yep.
and it looks amazing.
Yeah, you can't really judge. I think they're reverse shots. I think,
Hmm.
they're shot point of view of the boat,
Hmm.
Andre and his party in the boat towards the shore where the woman and the pagan woman and the pagan man are trying to escape
Yeah.
soldiers. And then point of view of from that side, we see the boat every once in a while, but we don't really have an idea of where they are in relation to each other until you got that close up pan across the boat
Yeah.
and past Andre to the end of the boat, and the woman her arm comes over right
Yeah.
there, right next to the boat, and she's swimming away, and she escapes. Yay!
Yeah, they would do that digitally today. They would
Yeah.
not even. I mean, some directors would. They like Tarantino would, Nolan would, PTA would, but a lot of them would cheat digitally with something like to that effect. But yeah, no, quite interesting sequence, like a temptation sequence, maybe.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
him.
This is, there's no question that Andre is tempted away
Mhm.
from. He's distracted. He wants to see what's happening with the pagans,
Because it
and he
could
pays the
inspire.
price.
Yeah,
He gets captured and tied up, and talks her into letting untying the rope, letting him free.
hmm
But he still doesn't go back to the camp until the next morning.
right. Which did he go rat him out and?
And that, and that's an interesting interpretation. I never thought of that, but
Yeah,
we just don't know what happened, what he was doing all night.
yeah, true.
So there's an implication there. Maybe it's not direct, but you know,
Stayed and had
whatever.
himself a time, or yeah, or just observed, or all sorts of stuff.
And because what essentially happens next with Andre is now he's in his crisis of faith.
Mm-hmm.
You wonder, did he just succumb to the temptation of the flesh, and now he doesn't think he's worthy of the gift that he has as a painter?
Or if somebody were to find out, they would take it away, or or if if he goes and does it, and then they find out, this Duke has a really short fuse, as we're gonna find out. I mean, just the littlest things, um, but he does. But yeah, this is a nifty sequence. There's not a whole lot of, I mean, it's deep, but it's like kind of surface level compared to a
Mhm.
lot of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, there's not a lot happening here.
Yeah, it's a rather short, but it's a nifty sequence because we can see a whole lot of other people in this one, and a different group going on as well. So we go to next, which is 5, which is The Last Judgment, which is also in 1408. And this one is Daniel is back, and
We don't see him rejoin. He's just back now.
yeah, he has just shown up, and maybe because where Andre is here is he's struggling to paint this church, and he's maybe brought him in because that was his old failsafe to try to, it's not working, and like Foma, his protege, is like, you know what, screw this, I'm out of here, I'm gonna go take another job at a less prestigious church or something like that. And then there's these Mason guys or whatever that have failed the Grand Duke, and he just sends dudes after him, and the main guy gets his eyes gouged out by knife, which we get to see, which is nuts. And so it's like it kind of ramps up the intensity and suspense here for Andre to get this done. And then we also meet Dorochka, and she's what they call her, a fool, because she doesn't talk, and she wanders in because it's raining, because it's raining a lot in this movie.
Yes.
Which rain is also a water, rain, puddles, bodies of water. It's a big Tarkovsky thing. It sounds silly, but there's water in every movie, Britt. No, the way Tarkovsky treats water, it means stuff. Like, it's always there. He loves doing that. But she shows up and sort of inspire. It's where he brings his inspiration back again for that.
Yeah, although he, notably he decides he's going to paint something. He wants to paint a feast scene rather than the Last Judgment, which he's been hired to do. So he seems confident enough that that'll be all right. But we've also just been shown evidence that if you piss off the Grand Duke, you could have some bad hurt coming your way.
Yeah, you will not be able to see anymore. He probably has cut off hands before.
And essentially all that is retribution for them saying that the prince built a much nicer place.
Yeah.
Yeah, we worked for the prince, and his place is much nicer than this one. Oh yeah, oh yeah, okay, all right. You'll get what's coming to you.
Yeah.
And I think some of those people
Say
in
it
in
again.
that
Say
part,
it
yeah,
again.
some of those people in that party were killed, and
Yeah.
multiples were blinded, and just
It's nasty. It's a
it is
really mean
nasty.
sequence. Like, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot trimmed down. Like some of these sequences, like the nudity in the other one's a little bit more extended, and then like the violence in this scene is definitely more extended in the longer cut of the film. But yeah, this one, and just I like sitting in the open blank canvas of the room gives like a mood.
Yeah,
Like that's really really cool.
it's a lot of shots inside the cathedral, which has been prepared so it's completely white,
Hmm.
and nobody has started any work. Well, apart from making the walls white. Um,
Yes.
Andre has
We've
not started
primed
any
it.
painting
We've got it primed.
because he's got painter's block,
Hmm.
because of his, he's not sure that he has got his faith still and that he can actually make do the painting. He's so scared and doubtful of himself, um, which, we're starting to work in the foreshadowing of the bell.
Yeah.
He's so doubtful of his own capability at this point, and can't find a way to regain that. So when Duroshka um, inspires him with an idea that he gets, that he wants to paint a feast, you feel like, okay, we've he's finally gotten over that hurdle. But what we get is slightly different. A slightly different result, because history is happening all around them this whole time, and
Hmm.
sometimes you can't stop the things that are happening, outside influences and all that. So this is a very long segment.
Yeah.
This chapter, it's one chapter, but it's broken up actually on the Criterion disc into three chapter stops.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of long. And let's see if there's anything else. I think I had it backwards, that it's the prince that um, hears the tradesman talking about that they built a better place for the duke, and that the
Gotcha.
prince sends.
Oh, it's a princess sensei. Okay.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure all that out. What was the prince doing? What was the duke doing?
So if
That's
the
right. Yeah.
so if the so yeah, so if Andre paints really good, the prince is gonna be pissed. That's
So yeah, at this point, we come to the end of part one, and it seems like Andre has found his inspiration to get
yeah.
over his painter's block, but we haven't gotten that over that hurdle yet.
Yeah. Well, and it also like this prince thing is like showing like the rich, the powerful, like not caring for like the guy just had a job to do. He was just building. These people are just building stuff, and they're like, go kill them. But just the care, the not
And it's all
caring,
because
and
he hates his brother.
yeah.
There's nothing. And we did have a discussion, my friends and I had a discussion about how, you can't help but think about what we have now, because the prince is the one responsible for bringing the Tartars in to sack the
Hmm.
village, and how we're getting people in charge of things in the United States right now that are destroying the country from the inside.
Yeah.
This guy's doing the same thing. The prince is doing the same thing.
Yeah, and it opens up part 6, chapter 6, the raid, which is autumn of 1408. So we spent a lot of time in 1408. It's a big pivotal year here.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Grand Duke is away. His brother has hired these Tartars, and they're just gonna go raid the town, which involves people fighting back but getting overpowered. Foma is there in the town too, but he makes this grand escape but like last minute gets an arrow in the back and falls into the water, and then here comes the paint. Like it's like, oh, it's sad. All the people are holed up in the where the church where Andrei's paintings everything is. They end up getting in there, ransack, and like, I mean, people, they thought Game of Thrones was this vicious thing, and like Tarkovsky was, he was setting the he was setting the stage for some of this stuff because there um her name
Doroshka.
Doroshka, she gets, we assume this guy's going to take her to get sexually assaulted, and Andrei Rublev takes an axe, kills him. There's a guy that gets like interrogated and like crosses burned onto him. So then they like melt the cross and feed it to him and then drag him on a horse. Like, whoo.
Yeah.
Just it's nuts. And the crazy thing is the head guy of the Tartars is like thinks this is all hilarious.
Yeah.
When I mean, they're like, we're gonna go what? All right, sure, man. You need help? Okay. Like, I don't think he even cares about any power. He just loves going to kill or something. And it, like, they even have like one of their guys like falls off his horse, almost goes down a hill as they're heading. Like they're and you're like, is this a clumsy group of guys? And they're like, oh no, they are a vicious bunch of guys here. This scene notoriously it has a scene where a horse falls downstairs and then they stab it. That horse actually died from this scene. This is before PETA and all that sort of thing, because the last movie to have used horses in abusive stunt ways was Never Say Never Again. That movie spawned like, hey, we need to do something about this. But this movie has that. And then throughout this movie, it's not the first horse. There's many moments of horses in this movie because there's early on, there's the horse on its back and stuff. And Tarkovsky has mentioned that the horse represents life for him. So it's not just a horse when you see it. It's a representation of like life or how life's going and stuff. And in this one, not good because it falls downstairs and gets stabbed, which the fall downstairs, I think probably was a film accident and they caught it on film. I doubt they had the horse jump off that multiple times.
Yeah.
Because that'd be hard to replicate.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah,
but it's very hard to watch.
Yeah, it's a vicious sequence.
Yeah.
And it starts out goofy. That's the weird. You have this prince just whining, and this guy's like, oh, okay, we're gonna get him. And then they show up and the people are not there, and it's just
the Tartars show up and the prince says, hey, you're late. And the Tartar leader says, oh, well, we passed through a village last night. I couldn't help myself. I really wanted to ransack it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why you're late. That's great. Yeah. So there's a lot here too. So I need to make a point here because the townspeople barricade themselves inside the monastery or the cathedral, which Andrei has now painted. But we never see Andrei painting in this movie.
No, we don't. That's true.
We only ever see his paintings, but we never see him actually doing the act of painting.
That is interesting. Yeah.
So this is a little bit, this is still, like you said, still 1408. But towards the end of 1408, so now he's done some of the work inside and now it's being burned. And towards the end of this chapter, Theophanes comes back.
Yes.
He's dead, so he's a ghost.
Right.
But Andrei still has a conversation with him, which it has that lovely moment, if you notice it, where Theophanes is off to the left of Andrei, and he goes off camera, and then he comes in to the right of Andrei.
Yes.
In the same shot. So it's like, we're just, making little hints that this man does not actually exist. But he's having another deep philosophical conversation. And Theophanes basically says, hey, what, are you upset that they burned your paintings? Think how many of my paintings have been burned.
Yeah.
It happens. Get over it. but yeah, it's critical though, because that's the moment when Andrei tells Theophanes, I don't have anything more to say to people. I'm going to take a vow of silence,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm never going to paint again. So he's made this decision because he killed the person who was attacking Doroshka. And he thinks that that was, he murdered somebody. So that's pretty serious.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mortal sin, right? So
We see him kill more people than paint.
yes. So he's going to take a vow of silence, which he does, and says he's never going to paint again.
I
Well,
have to wonder. You bring up that he never paints. So this is a fictional biopic of Andrei Rublev, this famous painter. But from what I've read, people don't know exactly what he painted. There's some that they're pretty sure, like absolutely certain he painted, but there's some that might be or might not be. So maybe that's a conscious decision to not attribute any to him
yeah, it could be.
by that act. Um, so I have to, yeah, I wonder if that's maybe a decision there, because I had read like they know paintings that are his, but then there are some in buildings and like painted in cathedrals and stuff that they're like, maybe that's not him. It's with his stuff, but maybe he didn't do that part or
Right, yeah.
something like that. So maybe that's a conscious decision there to just like show the before and after. But
Yeah.
and also, yeah, it is a testament to show like, wars, violence and stuff. They ruin art. They
Yeah.
ruin architecture. They ruin all these things. They, destroy missing Doctor Who episodes. But there's things that mean something to people and where they live, and this just there's no maybe it's a testament of like him saying like the powers that be don't care about the art you make at the end of the day. They don't care about they and it's important to people. It's something for but like when it comes down to power, they don't care about history. They don't
Yeah.
care about what came artifacts that came with it. I mean, yeah, just and art beyond painting, beyond making a film, beyond writing a book, but like architecture, that's a form of art. That's a form of creating a like a tone, a voice, a look for something. It gives character, and then like wars, violence, all that stuff just destroys it, and it's like
And this is the chapter in which we see them tearing the metal plating off of the roof of the dome of the cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about burning the painting. The paintings on the walls are not worth anything to them, but the plating on the roof is worth something.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, it's just it's kind of a disturbing thing. Yeah, when I was watching this, I was like, geez, man, that's just going through it. And Grant, maybe because I was just in New York, and I went to the 9/11 memorial area, and just those two of the greatest structures in our country that just went down. Now you got this one, but it's like that's only there because two things were gone that were big achievements in the world of construction, architecture, things like that. But just think about all that, and then you like I mentioned, Doctor Who episodes. There's so many stories of like, oh, it was in there, but that got bombed back in. It could have been in there, and it was bombed back in the day, or this government it's like. Okay, granted, silly thing to worry about in a time of war, but like not my Doctor Who, but like those are the things that happen. Like there's so many famous paintings that don't exist anymore. We don't even know about great artists that like aren't in our history books and stuff because all their stuff was gone before we even got a chance to document or write about it or photograph or get the thing. And that's just a lot of stuff here that really hit when I watched the sequence about they just don't care. It's like all about power and stuff. So art's important, folks. Just saying. Just saying. Yeah, our next sequence is it's Silence, which is 4 years later in 1412. This one has like a different name, right? Or is it the bell that has a different name? One of them has a different name in the longer version. I can't remember
Oh,
which one.
I'm not sure. I have them both as Silence and Bell.
Okay. There's what I remember. I was watching. I think I was watching one of the bonus features, and they said that one of them had a different name in one of the original cuts. But this one is the aftermath of that. Oh, so okay, it's also titled "The Charity"
Hmm.
in some cuts of the in the 205-minute version. Passion Corner
Okay.
can be called Charity. So yeah, this is where he is just hanging around. Him and Darushka are an item, I guess. And everybody's just kind of living in this aftermath world. And Kirill comes back into play in this one, and Tartars show up and take Darushka away as she just doesn't seem to care that, oh, these are the same kind of the people that, came and just ransacked us, but
Yeah.
they're giving me attention. I'm kind of bored with Andrei. See you later. But Kirill really wants to reconnect with Andrei, and it's just not working with this one.
Yeah, he thinks he's gonna get. He doesn't reveal who he is at first, but
Mhm.
one of the younger monks in the monastery recognizes him, and it is somebody that we saw earlier in the movie. Um, and he said, "Aren't you Kirill? Yeah, yeah, you are, aren't you?" Oh, yeah, yeah, I am. So the father superior shows up and he's like, "I remember you. You're no, no. You're not get nope." And Carol sort of abases himself, like, please, I'll do anything. Okay, he says the father superior says you copy out the scriptures 15 times and you can stay. And Carol's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Fair
Um,
deal. Bart Simpson writing on the chalkboard.
but I love that the father spirit. It's been 12 years since they left, and he's like, don't think I forgot. I remember that day. I remember everything about that day. You told us to f off and whatever. Didn't really, but you get the idea.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, no,
like,
it was.
screw you
I
guys, I'm
mean,
going home.
that's the shorthand. But yeah, he puffed off in that one. It's a big moment.
Yeah. Um, Not this is a pretty short part of the movie overall. But it does end uh with Kirill talking to Andrei because at first,
Mhm.
so this part starts for the rest of the movie. These last two segments, Andrei is a background character.
Yeah,
He's taken his vow of silence and he doesn't talk to anybody and he's not painting. So all he's doing is surviving day to day. He's taking care of Duroshka because he feels some sort of responsibility for her. And nobody else will take that responsibility. So,
well, I mean,
um,
he got his whole silence thing because he killed a man to save her, so he might
yeah,
as well make sure she's
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's a big thing.
yeah.
Absolutely. So, but he remains a background character, throughout the rest of the movie. Um, and not just because he doesn't have any more dialogue except for the very end. Um, because we do get this moment where Kirill actually approaches him and talks to him. And then there's a little bit more of the conversation in the next chapter, but I'm pretty sure that it's temporarily displaced.
Mhm.
So the conversation that we see between them in the Bell chapter is continuous with the portion that we see in this chapter. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure it's the same conversation. It's just split by time. We see it as more of like a flashback later, and it's basically Kirill saying, "Yeah, I was totally envious of your abilities, and I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand." The attention you were getting, and it pissed me off so much that I couldn't take it anymore, and I had to leave. We've probably all known people similar to that, but maybe not quite as strong of a contrast. But we probably know people who are envious of things that we can do in our lives, whatever. And I'm actually not honestly thinking of anything in particular right now, but I'm sure that people have that kind of experience with others.
Yeah.
Jealousy is a very common thing.
Yeah. I mean, especially the age of social media where people see things of like, um, people's posts of things or something like that, and they don't really realize the context, or it's you're looking at something phony or going for something, but getting super envious or thinking they need to be somewhere in life because they see this person posting this stuff, or feeling like they aren't doing anything in life because they're not in the social media for the it's I won't say whether social media was a failure or was a good thing. I think there's a lot of both. um and but like I do think there's some of that, in modern day, someone, you know there's a Kirill looking at someone's social media thinking they need to be here while not appreciating that they do actually have a pretty good here. And it's usually a chain of events because like you envy this person, but this person envies you, and this
Mhm.
it's like it's a chain of envy, and no one's sitting around to just enjoy who they are and what they've done.
Mhm.
Goals are great and stuff, but envy can be a quite dangerous thing, with everything. Which, yeah, this is him fessing up, admitting like, yeah, I threw, it was me that called called them to get the jester. It was, I wanted to be the painter, stuff like that. But you know, but also seeing the aftermath of Andre, like, oh crap, that could have been me because that's the position I wanted.
Mhm.
So
I have to also say a good word for the old age makeup in this movie,
yeah, oh my
because
gosh.
you don't really think about it because there's so much going on in this movie, but the makeup is really well done. They really look like they've all aged a lot, and it doesn't look fake at all.
And also, we gotta give credit to Anatoly Solaris, who plays Andrei Rublev. I believe this is his first movie. This is his first,
Yeah, he's
and
amazing.
he's incredible. And he'll go on to be in Tarkovsky's movies from here out. But like, dang, like I was like discovering, like, yeah, this is his first role. Like, what? this,
Yeah, yeah,
if this movie
great.
was made in the United States, he'd have been a surefire Oscar nominee. Like, gosh, it's insane. It is insane. Quite here. Um, and speaking with this stuff, kind of like how this movie's going, I was trying to think of like a movie that it reminded me of, and I kind of got a Man for All Seasons vibe with this in a very
Mm.
different way. If you're familiar with that movie, there's kind of this
Been
like
a while,
holding.
but
Yeah, I it kept that one kept coming into my mind watching this one. Um, Not the exact same movie, but sort of the thematic vibe and the journey of a character sticking, um, to it throughout with how they are, despite everything around them drastically changing throughout the film.
yeah,
The constant there. Um, yeah, but yeah, this is a little short piece to kind of like, set up where we go and how things have been, as we jump to the Bell, the final chapter, which takes place from spring 1423 to 1424. And this one, there's like a Duke's wanting a bell. There's a young kid who's like, "Oh, I know the secrets to all the, I've been passed down. You want me to make the bell?" It becomes this really kind of crazy, because he'll like, if they don't make the bell right, if it doesn't even ring, like this kid's gonna die. Andre's there to witness this whole thing, and it turns out, the bells ends up being this hard mission. He's tough. The kid's tough to work with, all this, but it ends up working well. And then you find out the kid did not know the secrets. He didn't know. He put everything on the line for it. And Andrei Rublev, like, it finally gets him to come out of his silence. He sees Dreshka come through town again with a
hmm
child and stuff, and like it all just comes. It was all coming to this. which is your stealth movie
Yeah,
thing here. So
yeah.
if you wanna go into more detail about that with your thoughts on the bell.
Well, there's a quote from Robert Eggers
Hmm.
from around the time when Nosferatu came out
Hmm.
last year, towards the end of last year. I'm going to read this. It's about Robert Eggers on Andrei Rublev. The last act or the last movement of Andrei Rublev is probably just the best thing in cinema history. That bell casting sequence is just so powerful. In some ways, it's kind of the same thing that Fanny and Alexander does, where you're not even sure who Andrei Rublev is for quite a while the first time you watch the movie. And this is the episode that makes sense together and works together in a film that doesn't have this super linear, aggressive plot. The last movement is very linear, that is incredibly cathartic once you've been marinated in this world. It really knocks you out. But in general, the movie is so well staged and beautiful and stunning and inspiring. It's completely mind blowing. I love the way he puts it that you're basically you don't really have a good sense of what story is being told here.
Yeah, because it's like starting a whole new thing almost. Like it's
Yeah, yeah.
no, yeah. You have Andre, Kirill is here, and then you get Drushka, but she's very towards the end in the distance. But like, it's very much focused around this kid. He is the center here.
So we start out with a close up of the kid, Boriska,
Hmm.
who's played by the same actor who played Ivan
Hmm.
in Ivan's childhood. He's older now. He's a young adult, um, and the Grand Duke's men have come looking for his father, and he's like, "Well, no, he's not here. Where is he? He's dead because the plague has come and killed off a lot of the people. Okay, if not him, how about this other bell maker? Yeah, he's dead too." And he basically Boriska says they're all dead except for this one guy, but you better talk to him fast because he's about to die. He'll be gone in 24 hours or less. And the Duke's men are like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna leave. We don't have anybody to make the bell. And he perks up. He immediately like, I'll do it for you. My father, before he died, he told me the secret. I'm the only one who knows. I'm the only one who's left that can do this. And the Duke's men are not convinced, but they're like, well, the Duke's going to be pissed. And we all know what happens when the Duke gets pissed. So they take him with him. And then we go through this long sequence of searching for the right clay,
Hmm.
searching for the place to cast the bell, to dig the pit to cast the bell. And we learn along the way what it takes to make a bell in the 1400s.
It is an intense sequence with like a lot of like, pouring iron, like getting it all together. It's awesome. Like
It is.
it is something.
Um, and all throughout this sequence, Andre is watching. We see him watching this kid. Somehow he's noticed and he's watching him very closely. And he even gets in the way. Boriska bumps into him at one point around the pit. He's like, stay out of the way, father. You're going to get hurt. And so we talked a little bit when we talked about Ivan's childhood about
Hmm.
that character um has a confidence, has a strength, um an almost bully like confidence that serves him well in his world. And this character, Borska, he's got the same sort of arrogant confidence,
Yeah.
because it's almost like once he starts digging this hole, figuratively and literally, um, he knows that the weight of all of this is on his shoulders. It's going to just grow and grow and grow. And towards the end, when they start breaking the clay off of the bell before they even raise it, you start seeing the tension and the worry
Mm-hmm.
and the people around him saying, well, if it doesn't ring, this kid's going to die,
Yeah.
and he knows that.
Like, can you imagine we get this all done and it doesn't ring? Yeah.
And if you've never seen this movie before, you will be guessing right up until the last second whether that bell is going to ring or not. We can't help but give it away in this
Yeah.
discussion because we have to talk about the end.
It is a movie that is now almost 60. So
Yeah. So, he goes through all of this, and he's actually pushing. He pushes harder. The Duke needs to give us more silver. We need more silver. Okay. So he's very adamant about all of the decisions he makes. And we realize later that it's he has to do this
mhm.
so that he can stay on top of things. And he knows it's a risk. He's gambling. And the gamble pays off, fortunately for him. Um, but you see it start to take its toll on him towards the end because he falls asleep. They start the firing of the clay in the pit, because he's asleep. Uh, they start it without him. They wake him up and it's going. He's like, "Oh, you were supposed to wake me. I'm the only one who knows when to start it." Um, it's an amazing performance. And just I might get a little bit emotional here because that moment when they start swinging the clapper back and
Mhm.
forth, and it's still going to be a while before they get enough
Yeah.
angle on that thing to hit the side of the bell, and we're still waiting. And Boriska's there, and he's nervous. He doesn't know if it's going to work, and he actually turns around and tries to walk away when the Duke shows up, and the other artisans turn him back around and say, "No, you got to face this." And Andrei is there watching, and the bell starts to ring, and you hear applause, and just a side note, the shooting of this scene where they've raised the bell and are ringing it is incredible. There are hundreds of extras.
Oh yeah.
The vista shots are amazing. They're just so incredible. And then as the bell starts to ring and it rings and it rings, Boriska just starts to walk away, and he falls. He loses the strength in his legs at one point. He falls down to the ground, and then he gets up. He walks towards this sort of posts sitting in the middle of nowhere, away from the bell, and he just sort of collapses against it. And Andre, who has been watching him this whole time, comes up to him. This is the moment where Andre is breaking his vow of silence that he's had for 4 years.
Well,
And
according, like, if we go by the
yeah,
dates, it's
more than
much longer than that.
11, 15 years.
If he starts it in 1408 at the end of the raid, then goes to 24.
15.
Yeah.
He breaks his vow of silence. And basically, what I said earlier about uh, um, Andre starting to doubt his own abilities and doesn't know if he is capable of, if he has the faith, the strength, and the capability of doing what he's originally thought God put him on earth to do. And he sees this kid who, in his mind, he's doing what God put him on earth to do, create bells, cast bells. And he sees it work, and he sees the pain in the kid's face, even though he's succeeded
Mhm.
and is probably now going to be the premier bellcaster in all of Rouge. That's he's exhausted. He's driven himself past the point of exhaustion, and he probably won't want to cast another bell for another time.
Right, yeah.
But he did it. He did it. And Nick Seidler, the way he put it, when he watched the movie recently, was fake it till you make it. He's like,
Yeah.
he says that's a very millennial thing. Fake it till you make it. I have to take his word for that. I don't know, but um, that's what this kid was doing.
Yeah.
He faked the well, I no, I don't think he faked the confidence. The confidence was real, but inside him, he knew that he didn't, because he confesses to Andre, my father, that bastard, he never told me the secret.
Yeah.
He
Well,
just kept it to himself and he died.
yeah, and this kid, like, he's, he's so brash in the way he is, like, because if anybody questions him at any time where he shows any sort of crack, he'll maybe lose that confidence, or they might know I'm not for real or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of like why you can put up with his attitude and things are going, because like he's got to have the most extreme focus possible. Like that's what he has going for him there, and that's kind of, and then at the end he's just like, okay, so this is the way. Like it was. I was right. All this stuff,
Yeah.
and I can relax now. And when I make my second bell, we're good. Like it's
So
just
Andre tells him, you know what? Come with me. We will go, we will go forth in this world. You will cast bells. I will paint icons and all will be well.
I will be your Theophanes. Like that's what I will.
There you
That's
go.
what I will do. But yeah, he's inspired once again. Um, and I think he sees Andrushka in the with a kid in the back. He's like his any worry he had about her is gone. Like she's gonna be okay. She's
True.
got a
Yeah.
child. She's able. She looks. She's she's dressed more elegant than before.
Yes. Yeah.
She looks more confident and with it. And she kind of gives him this look, and like that. If that was what was holding him back, it's gone. It's moved on. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I will say that in the screenplay, the earlier draft of the screenplay, weirdly, uh, in the in the I think it's in the silence section,
hmm
roughly speaking, where Andre is just living his day-to-day life with Doroshka. Um, she is pregnant in that
oh, okay.
part, and she gives birth at the towards the end of it, and immediately upon giving birth regains her power of coherent speech
Oh, okay.
and is no longer afflicted in the holy fool way. um which I think that's a little too on the nose, which is why he would
But
have
you can
changed that.
convey all that so much with just the look she has there. Like you
Yeah.
didn't have to over explain, didn't have to. It was all there. And Dorishka, um, it's a good performance. She's played by the woman who played the mother, which you saw at the top of the well in Ivan's childhood. I'm pretty sure. Was that her? That was her
I think so.
being used again. So familiarity, but man, uh, yeah, that was it's just good stuff with minimal, visual language. That's so important, which is lost upon a
Yeah.
lot of filmmakers today.
True.
Granted, we're in a big business era of film where that's things are going. That's how
And
people
often
top.
you
But
have people watching not paying full attention to things anymore, so you need to maybe drill things into them that you wouldn't have had to in the past.
yes, but yeah, this is here. This tells you so much visually. Yeah, and consider you have a whole section called silence. You got to look at the screen. Um,
Yeah. The only benefit I can think of that the having her pregnant in those scenes earlier, it uh the all of the people around them think that Andre is the father of the child,
mhm.
but when she gives birth, it's clearly uh from a Tartar father.
Oh, okay.
So they all suspect that Andre has taken a vow of silence because he's got this woman pregnant, and that's why he's protecting her.
Gotcha.
Um, but when they discover that he's not, they kind of sheepishly go, "Oh, okay, whoops."
Gotcha. But does he kill the guy much later in the process in this that one then? That book then?
I don't think so.
Or okay.
I, I I didn't really understand there isn't any written description of at what point did she get pregnant? Like,
Yeah.
was she
Are these
going
targets?
off and
I wonder if
whatever?
these targets just keep coming back to town.
Yeah.
Like that's possibly,
I mean, they were certainly shown raping people, so
yes, yeah.
um, you never know.
Never know. But yeah, yeah, following the powerful bell sequence, we just like sit and bask in color footage of the icons of Andrei Rublev in actuality. And then we, get more horses and rain, which I feel
Yeah.
like, yep. Um, which I think Tarkovsky said he wanted you to like separate the work from the man for the final, moments of the film or something like that. Um, and why he put it in color, which apparently there was a earlier cut of the film that had it in black and white, but it was always intended for that to be in
Mm.
color. And then I guess when it was shown on TV in Russia, it was like, black and white again. Someone was like, "How'd that get in? What cut did you have? Why is that in there?" But no, it's a color. It's just, and it goes on for a long time. But you just kind of sit and marvel at like this was the journey to get to these
Yeah.
sort of things.
Yeah. So, a 3 hour plus movie
Mm-hmm.
that this movie for me rates 100 out of 100. So this is
It's a
like
5 out of 5 for me.
yeah.
So yeah.
But if it had been cut off right when the bell segment started
Mm-hmm.
somehow, I don't know what I would give it, because the bell just, it's
That
not a
brings it
movie
home.
without
Yeah.
that segment. It just doesn't gel. There's nothing that it coalesces around to get that rating.
Yeah. It's still a good. I mean, it's still a terrific movie without that of like contemplation things like that. But yeah, it's like kind of like where is this going to impact? And I think the bell perfectly encapsulates and brings back to the hot air balloon guy at the beginning. Like
Mm.
it acts absolutely, handshakes that to a degree of someone putting out there, but a guy living and having the legacy and being able to see his legacy rather than just dropping dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, powerful stuff. This is a fantastic. If you've never seen Andrei Rublev, you got. I mean, it's weird to call it a biopic because it's fictionalized, but
Mm.
it's one
Yeah,
of the
very.
best ones out there, and it's just a powerful. Like, and this guy, we saw Ivan's Childhood, which is a nice smaller film, and then this is just this. It's epic, but it's not like. I know this is probably an expensive movie for a time because there's a lot of extras and things like that and costuming, but uh, it's just like it's a leap from Ivan's Childhood
Yeah,
in terms
very
of
much.
everything. Like it is just like wow, okay. Um this is like tremendous. And most
It's
people like if they could only make one movie like of this caliber be great, but we're going to go through some more of his. They're just like wow, this guy.
yeah, it's not even like any of his future films at all.
No.
It's way, way bigger than anything he does after this.
Yeah, I was trying to like cuz I see this this him and Kubrick a lot. I keep mentioning that, but this I'm like, what if Kubrick should this be? This is probably like Spartacus, but I like it better than Spartacus.
Hmm.
And Spartacus really wasn't Kubrick's. He came in to help fix it and stuff like that. But yeah, I was like, this is probably in the Spartacus realm, or maybe somewhat Barry Lyndon. Different vibes completely, but a story of a guy's
Yeah.
life through and through in a period, through segments. But I was just really that would be like the parallels I could find through that. But this thing is in a world of its own. Like really, just
Hmm.
sitting there, and I could watching it. I need to watch it more often. I think because I just picked this. Watching it. I watched the regular cut first, then I went and watched the extended much as I could, and I was just like, yeah, this thing cooks, and it's just I just get lost in the conversations and then the visuals
Hmm.
as well. But it's an awesome movie.
It
I don't
is.
know what your group was thinking, Were they watching it on their phones?
No, I don't think so. I think a big part of it had to do with the animal cruelty
No, okay.
on screen,
Yeah, understood.
which I understand, but
Gotcha. Hey, there's I've seen a lot of complaints about a Doctor Who the robot revolution,
Robot Revolution?
with the cat being zapped.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, that's a CG, not real. Didn't even see, like, you only saw like the aftermath. I'm like,
Yep.
but played for a gag. But nope, people, when it comes to animals, they do get.
How dare you kill that cat?
How dare you kill that cat? So, when we return in May, which will end up being on a Wednesday this time because the summer of 2015 at 10 starts, and that'll be on the Monday. I'll take the Monday slots, but these will be on a Wednesday. Tarkovsky returns after a 6-year hiatus with 1972's Solaris, which I'm sure will be another big episode in this series. Lots to chew on. And until then, where can people keep up with you, Stephen?
Well, I'm on Facebook as Stephen Warren Hill, and Twitch. I do a DJ set on Mondays and Fridays at 9:30 p.m. Central. DJ Steve Hill 950.
There we go. All right. I'm on the socials at Brandon4KUHD. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. As always, PopCon. It's back June 27th through 29th this summer at the Indiana Convention Center in the heart of downtown Indianapolis. Please come and check out the live podcast stage and podcast awards. But that's not all. The Creators Summit for all you YouTuber, authors, podcasters, and filmmakers that is hitting Indianapolis right before PopCon at June 25th and 26th. I'll be there. All info on both at popcon.us and popconsummit.com. Next week on this show, the summer of 2015 at 10 begins. So welcome back, all you people who only listen during the summer. Appreciate you coming back. But if you're listening to this one, thank you. I'm really enjoying this series, and I cannot wait to tackle Solaris again. So, Stephen, thank you. And everybody else, stay film positive.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.